I did it because during a pandemic, I found myself on my own with nobody to talk to and nobody cared. And I thought, I can't have that happen again to me. And there's lots of other people who I can help to make sure it never happens to them again.
Welcome to the Get Stressless podcast, the place where we learn how to manage our stress and create the life of our dreams. Today, we have an amazing person with us, Dave Crane. If you don't know who Dave Crane is, watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've hosted over 1,000 events, and there's nothing more exciting or nerve-wracking than getting to introduce one of the best in the business. He's an award-winning international motivational speaker and coach. He's worked with celebrities like James Brown and Bruce Willis.
And I'm Jack Canfield. And I'm Brian Tracy.
And I'm John Gray.
I'm Jared Robin.
And I'm Perry Marshall.
Hi, and I'm George Regan.
To audiences of over 1 billion people. He's sharing how to become unstoppable in business. It's my honor to introduce to you Dave Crane.
Dave, it's so great to have you with us today.
It's a pleasure being here. I love your podcast, and it's an honor to be on your show.
I remember hearing you in an episode in your podcast talking about your experience with the pandemic. And I was wondering, your experience was very intense because it's totally changed, the way you lived and the way you worked you are a public speaker and your wife a wedding photographer, and the pandemic came and then everything stopped. So that was like 2 years. So it wasn't a short period of time. So how would you mind me asking you, how did you manage your stress in that period of time? What mental changes did you have to go through in order to survive the situation?
That's a great question. Not many people have asked me that question. And I think it's because A, most people don't care, or B, because they have to confront themselves with that question to be able to extend it to ask for somebody else. I went through a number of different things. First of all, when there's no money coming in, and you realize that there's a real danger to your family surviving, because Dubai is a very expensive place. And we had some savings, but we didn't have 2 years worth of savings in the bank. I went live on air on my social media. I created a studio, not as sophisticated as this. My studio, as you're looking at it right now, means that I can easily just, as you know how you can do it yourself, you've got the same kind of setup, I can turn it into anything whatsoever, and then suddenly it becomes really exciting. But I went live for about 200 shows during the pandemic, because I thought, well, what can I fall back on? If I can't speak in public, I'll speak online and prove I'm still a speaker. Mm-hmm. I'll prove to the world that when we come out of it, people will turn around and say, we need a speaker. Dave, if I stayed off the radar, then there's no guarantee I'd get back on it. Mm-hmm. So I went to work every day. I spent 14 hours, 16-hour days at this desk, working, knocking on doors, going live. I had a friend in the US. We started a show called The Toilet Paper Diaries. We went live within 4 days of the pandemic in Houston and Dubai, and we're having an average of 1,500 people watching us live on Facebook every day.
So you didn't wait.
We could wait for what?
Yeah.
We have to take action, because, if you leave it, even if you're going in the wrong direction, at least you've got the motivation in moving. If you don't do that, then you slow down, and then fear sets in. I wouldn't let fear set in. I had to have adrenaline going. So I kept going and kept going. And every now and again, I get stuff that came through. As a family, we got used to budgeting, extreme budgeting, to make sure, there's school fees, there's car payments, there's rent, there's electricity, all the same bills. And for many people, they didn't have to worry the same way. They might have taken a little bit of a hit. So they're on maybe 70% of their normal wages. But most jobs, especially in the IT sector, they're boosted during the pandemic. They made more money than they'd ever made before. And so everyone's enjoying the rewards, and they get to live at home. So for me, I worked really, really hard to try and keep my family afloat. When things changed, we came out of it. It didn't come out of it for us in the entertainment industry, because events and entertainment was still getting cancelled because people would get COVID or would not turn up or for whatever reason. I remember one particular event, where the CEO got COVID, so he couldn't travel, so they cancelled the event.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I do as a speaker? But I get paid in advance, so that was their problem, not mine. But what I realized, for many people, they went through burnout.
Yeah.
So they worked really hard, and then eventually they went bang and dropped. For me, I didn't get that. I got a thing called burn in.
What do you mean?
Burn in is, imagine having your car stuck in sand and you're revving the engine and you're driving the tires, but it's not moving forward. That was me. So I was still pushing every day, even after the danger had lessened. I was still going on doing 14-hour days. And during that time, I didn't look after myself. During that time, I was eating M&Ms, I was eating cake, I was drinking all the wrong stuff, fizzy drinks, coffee all the time, because I had to keep my energy up. My trade-off was, if I can stay focused, I can save the family and I can lose weight after this pandemic is over. If I try and pace myself, I might lose that opportunity. So the only thing that matters is, are we paying bills, and how do I do it best? Sitting here, staying awake, I was in so many groups, I had so many projects I chased up that didn't come through, but I was knocking on doors everywhere. So I realized I was going through burn in. And my wife said to me, you have to stop working on a Saturday. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. Come on, we're still okay, but we're not okay. We're doing things have shifted, work's coming in, but not as fast as it needs to be. And she said, take Saturday off. Now, for anybody who's married, they know that when your wife says it, she probably means it. And you go, no, okay. And eventually you just do it. So I started taking Saturdays off. At first it was reluctance. I'd kind of half work. And then I realized, just take the Saturday. Because the problem is, you're not effective.
Yeah.
This is a problem that hits most men who are CEOs, or everybody who's working really hard and they feel they've got to work all the time. You either should work or not work. If you work, give it 100%. If you're not working, give that 100%. But don't do both, because you end up putting in a lot of time and not affecting anything. So my Saturdays, I would just switch off. I would watch Netflix, I'd go for a massage, I'd go out for a walk, I'd sit in a coffee shop, but I wouldn't work. And it was really hard at first, because I love what I do. I've chosen a job.
Your mind kept going, kept thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I had to teach myself to go, I'm off, no more. And part of that I'm off is also saying to my family, if you make me feel like I'm working, I'm not doing it. So going shopping as a family at first was work. So I'm not doing it. And it doesn't mean I don't love my folks, but if I swap one type of work for another type of work, and for anybody who hates shopping, they know exactly what I'm talking about, then I don't relax, in which case I don't come back. So what we do now as a family is Saturday is our day. We'll all come together to eat. And we go off to our own little rooms, our own little silos. I stay in my office and chill out most of the time. And Sunday is a half day back at work if we want to. Then Monday to Friday, bang, 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 we work as hard as we can to get stuff done. And I realized that for the first time, and as a hypnotherapist and as an NLP master practitioner, I've dealt with people's stress for a very long time. I've helped people lose weight, stop smoking, deal with childhood issues, a ton of different things as a therapist, but you can't do brain surgery on yourself. So during the pandemic, I did breathing exercises and learned to do meditation, and that was fantastic. I did do exercise, but not as much as I need to, especially now. I won't stand up, but you'd find out anyway. From a neck up, I'm okay. From a body down, it's not great. And I realized that what I have to do is I have to get myself back on track. Now, here's what the big problem is. If you're a guy, you can't admit you've got a problem without looking like you're a lesser human being. Because we don't get taught to do this. If you're a woman, from the very early stages, you're chatting, you're reading magazines that tell you all about, and it's not gossip, it's about emotions and how to deal with them. And she's going through that. Guys don't do that. And so that's why traditionally in media, it was really hard to reach guys in media. You talk about gaming, you talk about cars, you talk about watches, you talk about suits. That's your lot. That's the advertising that would reach most men. We don't want to talk about therapy. We don't want to talk about, my friend was upset. So we go, you know what? Let's go down the pub. Let's have a beer. You'll be okay.
Yeah, men are taught to find solutions first and then share with others. But if they don't have the solutions, they better stay with themselves until they find the solutions. Women are different. Women talk to share, to understand, to vent emotions.
We can't vent, and we can't support each other unless we're taught how to, which is why the suicide rate, most suicides are 80% of suicides are 40-plus-year-old men who can't find a solution to what they're going through because we were never taught how to do it. We don't see the point in we've got bills, we've got debts, we've got pressure, and we don't know how to deal with the stress. So the easiest way to deal with the stress is to get out. And that's why it's an epidemic amongst men. Nobody turns around and says it's a problem, because if you say it's a problem, you're saying I'm a weaker man than you are, and that's not what we're trained to do. Our DNA doesn't let us do that.
So if you're a listener and you're a man and if you're in this situation, don't do it. Continue listening to this podcast, to this show, and you'll find out how to get out of your situation. So far, we talked about figuring out, like taking action towards solving the problem, not waiting for things to change, but taking action, but taking smarter action, not just working excessively, but working and then taking breaks to rejuvenate, to relax, because the efficiency goes down the more we work, and we have to take breaks to bring the efficiency back up. Did I get this right?
Yeah, that's true. But I also think it's very, very dangerous of you and me to put forward this as a solution, because everybody's different. Everybody has to find it at their own pace and in a way that they feel comfortable. We can flag up what we've done as examples of maybe you can go in this direction. But for some people, you need to read about it. For some people, you need to reach out and get a therapist. If you can't afford a therapist, then talk to a friend. If you can't do that, then jump online and go to YouTube and have a look at some videos made by people, listen to your podcast, and find solutions that make it easier for you. Because
totally agree. Don't wait. Just take some action.
Whatever is going to make you feel a little bit better, it's a percentage battle. A little bit better, not a one size fits all, but little bits that make you feel more comfortable so you can manage it and then you can move forward. That's what I believe people should be looking at. And I think now we have more transparency. People are admitting, I've got problems, but some people won't do it because it's an issue to do that. Because certainly in many jobs, you turn around and say, you know what, I'm dealing with mental issues. They're going to say, okay, we won't work with you. We'll go to somebody else who hasn't said that yet. But everybody's got mental issues. It's part of our DNA. But at the same time, we'll work through it better if we're able to confront that person in the mirror and say, right, I do love you. I know that you're also a bit of an idiot sometimes. Let's just go on a ride together, and I'll stop saying terrible things to you if you make me laugh a little bit more often. And one of the things I had to come to terms with is just, this is me. And if people don't like it, that's fine as well.
Yeah, honesty is very important, and it's freeing. Once you are honest with yourself and realize you accept yourself like as an imperfect being, because we are taught to be perfect. We have to do everything perfect. Men especially, men can't have mistakes. They have to be perfect. And there's such a big pressure. Don't get me wrong, women too. Women have their pressure, men have their pressure. It's about that pressure that builds up for nothing. It's for this idea of being perfect that doesn't help anyone, and that only creates more stress. And that stress creates more worries and more issues and so on. So being honest with ourselves, with who we are, and accepting ourselves as we are is a very important step in creating that inner space of peace from which we can evolve, we can grow, we can learn. And as you said, percentage game, little by little, we make it better and better and better. And yeah, please go on.
I was going to say, we do have to have stress. Stress is important because otherwise you won't get out of bed and you won't feed your family and you won't do what you need to do to keep you afloat. But you need to be able to manage it. Make sure it doesn't hijack you. You are able to deal with it and you're able to calm it down. So being mindful and doing breathing exercises and doing exercise physical exercise, and being able to talk to people, having a best friend that you can say anything to. You know, I mean, I love my wife and she's my best friend as well, but it's not healthy that she's the same person who causes half the arguments and the same person that I have to talk to about the causage of the arguments. You need to have that triangle, at least have a group of friends that you can let off steam to. And it's a real problem for men. Men are more lonely than they've ever been before because we don't know how to deal with that. And as you get older and you put your time into your family and you've got your wife to talk to and your kids to look after and your job to go to, the hardest thing is finding space where men can talk. Because for women, it's easy. Whether you're online or you're going out shopping or and I'm saying, sorry, I don't mean disrespect, women should be at home. I'm not saying that. But women can talk to each other a lot more easily and bond on these subjects than men can. When I talk, whenever we get together socially with parents of my daughter from school, the girls will talk about everything and the guys just talk about whatever we can find that we get on about. Football.
Yeah, as we said before, it's a difference in education. I want to come back to one idea that you said about stress, that it's important to have. And I think we should define what stress is, because I actually Googled this and I looked for definitions for stress. And what I found is that stress can be defined as emotional turmoil. It's not just the situation that appears in our life that pushes us to act differently, but it's the emotional turmoil a person feels because of that situation. And from my experience, and I'm working as a coach close to 8 years now, a person can look at the same situation and be with emotional turmoil or with motivation. Emotional turmoil means the person is conflicted, is fearful, is angry, is in a negative state of being. If a person is motivated, he looks at the situation, or she looks at the situation with confidence, with courage, with hope. It's a totally different situation. And in that situation, it's not about stress, it's about the excitement of taking action. You get excited at the idea of getting out of bed because you get to do what you like to do, or you get to take action, or you get to get out of a situation. It's not about you get out of the bed because you're afraid that if you don't have money, you don't have food. Sure, that pushes you forward and is better than staying still or staying in bed, but still is not a good way of living, because our immune system deactivates if we keep ourselves in a stressful state. So it's important to make the difference.
I hear you, and I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with a lot of what you've said. But I think we need to have a discomfort zone in order to be able to grow. We have to have a tipping point of saying, this isn't working for me, and I prefer to go to where I need to be than stay here, like being in a relationship that's painful for you. Yeah, it's going to be even harder to be on your own, but at least you'll be able to grow from that. Or you can stay in a horrible situation where it's just easier to put up with people's rubbish than it is to go and do something else. I think stress is important, but I think that what you do with it after that is important. It's like a fuel for change.
Exactly.
If you didn't have that tipping point, you wouldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's not about fearing stress and trying to stay stress-free all your life. It's about limiting the time you spend being stressed. As you said, like if something happens, it creates that discomfort about your life, about your relationship. You realize that you don't like something about your life. You have to change something. So that's stressful, but you don't stay in that stress. Once you decide to make a plan to take action, you switch to a different emotion. So you go out of that stress and you go into confidence, you go into hope, you go into something much more capable of pushing you forward and, of course, growing. Because once you take action, you become more confident in yourself, you grow, you become more able to face challenges and achieve more. Did I understand correctly what you meant? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, what you said there, I mean, I think that the challenge is with what you've just said there, I think you've got a very beautiful way of bringing the whole thing together, but I think it has to get ugly before it gets pretty. I think it's got to
that
be
you need that disruption, that
you
discomfort.
do.
Yeah,
You do. You
absolutely.
need that level of stress to
Yeah.
fix it. So, for instance, if you've been, as a question to you, if you're working on a sale for your product or your services, and you got a client who says, yeah, I really want it, and you work really, really hard, and you get into there, and they turn on last minute, and they say, actually, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go to them. They're cheaper, or they're doing a better job than you, or whatever. That's going to stress you out. Big
Not
time.
necessarily. It depends.
How do you deal with it?
Well, it depends. First of all, it matters how many people you are talking at the same time with. Because if you are only talking with that one person about a sale, then you will be very stressed because you will be thinking, man, I have to do this sale. What am I going to do? But if you're talking with 10 people at the same time and you're in selling conversations with them, because every day you've been talking with 5-10 people about your the possibility of working together, then you're more relaxed. And if that person comes to you and says, look, I want to go to the competition because they're cheaper, you can go and say, do it. If you think that this is better for you, do it. Don't state, I don't need your money to survive. I'm very good on my own. I have other prospects. And if this is better for you to go and buy that cheaper service, that's perfect. That service may be different. It may offer something different than I offer. But if you think that this is something good for you, I totally encourage you to do it. And most of the time, what happens is people go, tell me again about your service. This is what happens to me. I don't know about you.
No, I hear you, and I love your solution, which is do more prospecting. So therefore, you've not all got your eggs in one basket. But the solution that I was going to come up with, which is different to yours, but it's equally valid, is when somebody turns around to me after I've worked really hard on them to get them to become a client, if they change their mind, I'll just go, okay, next.
Exactly.
Done.
Exactly.
Don't carry it longer.
It's like
don't
have
reverse
to
engineer.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, it's not about controlling people or controlling situations.
It's about getting that stress, diffusing it, but also using that as an engine to put behind you, to put fire in your belly and make you move forward to make sure it never happens again. So like you said, you get then lots of different prospects. You do the extra effort to make sure you've got various sales processes going on with other people at the same time. So you never have that again. But you have to go through stress to learn that we need a better solution than people saying no all the time and I don't get things done. So it's a combination.
Totally agree with you. And I think it's very important, like from my experience, to remember your mission. If you remember why you're doing it, it's not just about selling the product, it's about helping the people, making a difference in the world. It doesn't feel like effort talking with people. Like you're doing your mission. If you love what you do, if you don't like what you do, sure, it's an effort. You have to put in the time, the hours to prospect and do that. But once you get into that image of the mission, I'm in this mission, I'm trying to improve people's lives, I'm trying to make a difference. Of course, I can't help everybody, but I'm trying to do something. I do it for my soul. It's like not that much of an effort. It's like you feel this pull from inside to take action. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, you're passionate about your field. But you understand
here's a question for you then, because right now with artificial intelligence, we're going to find out about at least 44% of people. I've heard figures as big as 80% of people are going to have to reskill. They have to learn that their old job will either disappear because it'll be done by artificial intelligence, or they have to integrate artificial intelligence, but some people will be laid off. The whole world is going to change. Now, there's lots of people going, la, 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 I'm not listening to this. I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and I don't really care. And they're going to get a massive shock. There needs to be a stress for people to say, I need to improve and move forward and reskill. When does that happen? Because if we remove all stress, you won't notice it happen until it's too late. So you've got to have that little fear.
You can't remove all stress. It's life. I mean, if you remove those stress from life, it would be boring. It would be like you wake up, you know exactly what's going to happen. Nothing surprises you. You just go another day. But if you don't know what's going to happen, if you have that little bit of surprise, that keeps things exciting. Like in a relationship, you never know exactly like next day how it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be a fight, maybe not. Maybe you'll go someplace. But if every day would be Zen, I don't know if you would love that relationship that much.
Well,
But
it's like the classic story about what story would you want to hear about a guy who's a millionaire, who's given some money by his parents and then becomes a billionaire, or a guy who's got zero and becomes a millionaire? Which is a better story? Everybody turns around and says, I want to know how he became a millionaire. What did he do? How did he invest? How did he change? What it must have gone down at some point. How did he fix it? We have to have that rags to riches. We have to have a day that goes up and down all the time in order to know how things get better.
We totally love that. We love to see that. And let me ask you about this. I mean, you're a world-renowned public speaker. I don't know if our listeners know this already, but you've been on stage with some of the most influential people in the world, like Jack Canfield, Gary Vee. You've talked with Sylvester Stallone, with Enrique Iglesias, with Kanye West, and the list goes on and on and on and on. I mean, dealing with these kinds of people, like celebrities and high status people, and there must have been some dose of stress for you, some dose of anxiety. How did you manage to go over it and just have a natural conversation and be able to perform on stage? How do you do it?
It's a great question. For me, I've been on stage since the age of 3. I'm in my mid-50s now. So I've had 5 decades of audiences. I am a massive introvert. I don't generally like to talk and be in crowds when I'm not working it. But with a microphone, it changes. My job is to do my job. So I go into autopilot at many of those occasions. The only time I do get nervous is if I'm doing something new and I'm not prepared for it. That stresses me out. That worries me. But I also know that as an entertainer, I can always fall back on the basics, which is, I mean, for instance, I remember giving a keynote to a big company, $1 billion company in oil in Abu Dhabi. And I went in and I'm giving a presentation and my laptop froze. And I couldn't get it to reboot again in the days when I used to use a PC rather than a Mac. So it froze. And so after pressing buttons and holding a microphone in one hand and talking and pressing buttons, I realized this thing's not going to fix itself and I have to take it away. But I've got an audience that have paid to be there. So instead, thinking on my feet, I went, you know what? Let's move this presentation to one side. While I'm here, let's just ask some questions. What's your biggest headache in your job? So I turned the whole thing into a Q&A.
You put all the pressure on them.
The pressure's on them. I've got to get to the end of a 2.5-hour training session with everyone going, that was great. So I turned it on and I worked with them for about 45 minutes to an hour on their challenges and passed the mic around and all the rest of it. And then I went back after I'd switched off my computer, switched it back on again, pressed a few buttons, it booted up, got it back on the screen, fast forwarded to the right kind of slides, and went back into my presentation to finish it off. So that was a challenge. But you think on your feet, because I'm very good at doing entertainment. And I've had stories like this left, right, and center. I don't feel nervous in front of big stars. Why? Because they're probably feeling just as nervous as I am. And also thinking, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They don't like me. They do like me. We get it to work. We don't get it to work. If I'm talking to somebody and interviewing them, I know that in a 15-minute interview, after 15 minutes, they're gone. Probably for the rest of my life. So if I know that's going to happen, let's just enjoy the moment. It's a dance between 2 interviewees. And at the end of the day, I've got a couple of things I need to get across. And if we've reached the end of our time, thank you so much. Next, you move on to the next thing.
Exactly.
And most people who are entertainers, most people are celebrities, most people we interview, I've got a very polished act. They know what they need to do. They know, for instance, if you talk to a movie star and they've got a movie coming out, then they're on a tour of interviews. So they just regurgitate the same thing for everybody, unless you catch them out with something else, in which case it could be intriguing or it could be for them annoying. So I don't think about it too much. I was on the radio for many years, and in Dubai, I was a celebrity on the radio, and I walked out of a radio station and never came back again.
You worked there like for 10 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I worked for BBC in the UK before I came out. And I walked away from radio and people said, well, how can you walk away? What a great job. You're getting free everywhere. You get all these perks. And I just said, it's become empty to me.
You didn't have that pull, that motivation anymore, that spark.
I loved my job, but I didn't like dealing with other people's rubbish while doing it.
I see.
Too much backstabbing, too many egos, too many people getting upset over, oh, look, they didn't take the right picture in the newspaper. They should have used another. Oh, you know what? Keep it. I don't need it. I've grown out of it. It's out of my system. I've got a beautiful wife, got a couple of dogs. I'll do something else. So I dropped off the radar of many of the things that I was doing before, which I thought I needed. I didn't need them in the end. I'm at a stage now where I'm growing communities worldwide. And I've got WhatsApp groups. I've got a group called the Game Changers, who are decision makers from around the world, who are part of my membership group. And I train them how to speak and how to brand and how to grow. I've got the Industry Icon program, where I'm working with people who are launching their products onto the market, or they've already got a successful business, but they need to brand themselves. I've got a community of that. And as you know, I've got a WhatsApp group at this moment in time. I've got on a 30-day challenge to help them boost their career. Now, I didn't do all that out of accident. I did it because during a pandemic, I found myself on my own with nobody to talk to, and nobody cared. And I thought, I can't have that happen again to me. And there's lots of other people who I can help to make sure it never happens to them again. And so my interest now is building communities that support others to get the best out of their life. And I'm finding it fascinating, but I'm out of my comfort zone. I'd much prefer to have my Saturdays watching Netflix. But it's like, for instance, if all you do is relax and do nothing, how will you know that you've lived a life?
Oh, that's a good
For
question.
me, it's having a challenge that gets me out of my comfort zone. I turned down a big project. I turned down a TV show about 2 months ago on Netflix. And I've been working on that project for about a year. And the reason I walked from the project is because the woman who was running it disrespected me. And I said to her privately, please don't talk to me like that. It's very important that we give love and transparency and respect to everybody we work with. And she got really upset about that. And we went our separate ways. And at first I was really upset because it was worth a lot of money. I said to my wife, you know what, I've let you down. And she said to me, me and my daughter don't care whether you do that show or not. That was yours. That's up to you. If you want to be on TV, you go on TV. She said, we'll get the money from somewhere else. We'll do something else or whatever. And I walked away from that thinking, okay, I'm not going to get stressed about letting my family down, but I don't for a second regret walking away from putting myself in a stressful situation with somebody who clearly didn't care about me, which means I would have lost a job at some point anyway, because we would have had that argument. But now it's important for me, but I only set myself into situations where, yes, get me challenged and I want to be outside my comfort zone, but don't get me stressed about being disrespected. I'd prefer you walked away. I may never talk again, but I love you, but please go away than put myself through what we went through for the last 2 years. And
it's more stressful to stay in such situations.
And
like
it's
for the
not
money
worth
and
it.
for the
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
To me.
Like you said before, it's important to realize that the things that were important to you, that you thought were important, aren't that important after all. So we can be... Yeah, please go on.
I was going to say, just to finish it off what you were saying, it's very important to realize what really matters. You need to have 3 meals a day, ideally, unless you're fasting, in which case less is good for you as well. You need to have love. You need to have self-care. And you need to enjoy your life. These are basics that we put to one side to get the latest shoes or the latest bag or a brand new suit or have people clapping for us, or on social media, we need to have this addictive dopamine bash of likes and comments and shares about, look at me, I'm fantastic. Please publicize that to everybody. It never used to be like that. And I think it's important to walk back to what matters for you and only do what matters to you. And then you have a happy life.
Those are probably the best words of wisdom anyone can hear, coming back to yourself and realizing what really is important to you, no matter what other people say. And this brings us to another important question I wanted to ask you. Like, because you've worked with, like in this industry, entertainment industry is a very critical industry. There's a lot of judgment, a lot of finger pointing because you open yourself to the world. And I was just curious, how do you manage criticism and negative feedback? How do you get over it? And how do you keep yourself motivated?
As human beings, it's natural for us to look out for danger. So it's much more difficult to deal with hate from people than it is to deal with love. So for instance, I mean, you need that. When the days when we were hunter-gatherers, if you're heading along in the forest and you got your spear and you're heading towards that group of deer so you can hunt them, and you hear a noise behind you, you pay attention to that noise behind you because somebody's hunting you. And you forget what's in front of you because you've got to pay attention. In modern days, that's if you go to an event and everyone turns around and says, I love what you're wearing, you go, oh, thank you very much. And somebody turns around and says, I hate that. You look like a clown. What sticks in your head? That. Exactly. Same DNA problem. But and as an entrepreneur, if I talk to 100 people and 99 say, what a ridiculous idea, but one person says, yeah, I'll have a meeting with you. What a success. But in the corporate world, it's not that. In the corporate world, if I talk to 100 people and I say, this is my idea, and 99 say, what a great idea, and one says, no, I don't think it's going to work, as a corporate organization, they then say, oh, okay, well, why don't you go away and fix that problem and then come back to us? And by that time, you've missed the opportunity because somebody else has done something in the market. So sometimes you need to go with your gut in this. For me, I'm able to deal with challenges and if I talk to 100 people and they say, Dave, I loved it, and a couple of people say, Dave, I didn't like it at all, I'll ask them why. And I imagine I've got a big bag and I put everyone's comments and everyone's thought, and I shake the bag and I take out what I can use to grow. I don't take out, I hated you. Why did you hate me? Because I just thought that what you did on stage wasn't right for me. Why? What is it you wanted to hear? And sometimes they're right. Sometimes you can learn and grow. And sometimes they're just not the right fit. You got to walk away and say, it wasn't me, it was you. So I think it's important to be able to put into perspective whatever lets you get back on track and keep moving forward. And sometimes it's challenging and sometimes it's painful, but sometimes that lets you know that you're alive.
Yeah, well said. That this is life. Like life is up, life is down. And I really like the idea of taking what works, what is good, what is useful from the situation. Like some people just write negative stuff or say negative stuff because they feel bad. It's not about you. Most times it's not about us. It's about how the people feel about their situation. Maybe they're fearful, maybe they're angry about something else. And I think it's very important to remember what you said, to take what is good, what is useful, and leave everything else behind.
Well, if somebody says to you, don't do it, you'll not be able to manage it. What they're not saying is, don't do it, you'll not be able to manage it. What they're saying is, I couldn't do it if I tried to manage it.
Exactly.
So you have to make your own decision because nobody knows you the way that you are, and you're evolving and changing all the time. And as you evolve and change, you get bigger and better. It means that you learn and you grow. And one day we will end. One day we die. And you won't get any more time left, 1 hour or maybe 1 minute or a split second to work out what your life was all about. And if you turn around and say, I've got loads of regrets, I wish I'd done more. And most people who die wish or thought they'd have more time.
Yeah.
But if every day when you go to bed, you're happy to say, if I don't wake up tomorrow, I gave it my best shot. I love the people that love me back. I also challenged myself to do great things. And I was happy. More or less every day. Now, happy goes like that. If you're happy all the time, you'd never know you were happy because it just seems the same.
Yeah.
You have to have bad days to know what a good day feels like. But if you've had this experience, maybe that's the best it gets because you can't take your money with you. You can't take your designer clothes with you. You can't even take your family with you. Yeah. Where you go in the end is just where you go. And it might be nowhere. So this life that you're in right now is your life. This is a journey. This is the adventure. Mess it up. Do great things. Do bad things. One of the things I got told to me, and it was a fascinating saying, I don't know where it came from, is when you're 20 years old, you worry about what people are saying about you. When you're 40 years old, you don't care about what people say about you. But when you're 60 years old, you realize that nobody was talking about you anyway. That for me tells it like it is. The earlier you can learn that, the better. My daughter, when she was 2 years old, I said to her, here's a lesson I want to give you. If you believe you're right, and I disagree with you, and your mommy disagrees with you, and your teachers disagree with you, but you still are convinced that you're right, you can tell us, we can kiss it. And the truth is, kiss your ass. But the truth is, how much of the stuff we have in our world is driven by commercial reasons, credit card companies. Cigarettes were good for kids until they found out kids were meant to have cigarettes. All commercial aspects are there. If you believe in your convictions and you can carve out a world that's really you-shaped and you're happy in it and people don't like it, that's their problem, not yours.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this is that people like you will show up. So when you create this world in which you believe in, people start showing up because there are so many people in the world that there's somebody out there like you, and not just one person, groups of people, like gatherings, like many people think just like you. You just have to speak up so other people can hear and say, hey, I think the same way like you, as you.
If you want a community. True. Sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you just want to be doing your own thing without anybody there. I'm an introvert and an extrovert. When you give me a microphone, I'll for 20 years, I hosted Dubai Rugby Sevens with 50,000 people in the audience, me with a microphone in the middle of a pitch, talking to 50,000 people for 3 days every year. But when I stopped doing that, once I'd finished that weekend, I went home and I just relaxed. And I didn't talk much to my family because I'd used enough energy for everybody. I need to recharge my batteries. And for everybody, you've got different personality types. I know friends who'd be crazy scared of talking to a live audience like me. But when you're in a small group, you can't shut them up. They're in charge. They're the leader of the pack. Let's do what I want to do.
Group of friends.
Sorry?
Group of people.
Yeah, if they're in a group of friends, then they want to be king of or queen of the group. For me, if I'm in a group of people, I'm happy to sit and watch, because if I take over, I have to take it over. And I don't always want to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking not necessarily in the career. Maybe the idea you're thinking about is a hobby. Maybe you like, I don't know, sewing, and you're a man. And everybody goes, what? You're a man and you like sewing? I don't personally think about this. I used to like sewing.
You're a tailor. You make suits.
So exactly. You become like you go to a group where people like sewing, like making suits, like making, I don't know, carpets, whatever. And you find people that think like you. And this comes back, I think, to the idea that you said that people need to share their situation. And when you find yourself in a group that thinks like you, it's easier to mention that, man, it's not that easy for me. And you get to vent a bit. And you get to find another opinion, and you get to find out that you're not really as alone as you think you are. And this really helps in dealing with your stress.
And even if you are alone, if you can be happy on your own and recharge your batteries on your own, that's not a bad thing either. You don't have to be in a community. It's nice if you can spread it and share with other people who can there to be part of your support network. But it doesn't have to be. I go for a walk with my dogs every night, and I might talk to them, or I might just have thoughts in my head. I might talk aloud. But sometimes that's all I need to do to recharge my batteries. I think everybody has to find their own way of moving forward. And for some people, it's a community. And for some people, it's being on their own. But find one that works for you.
Absolutely. Dave, it's been an amazing talk. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and to share from your experience. Again, what would you recommend for people to find out more about you? I know you have a podcast. How can people reach out to you?
That's very kind. Thank you. I'm very active on LinkedIn under Dave Crane Dubai. Can I just say before I tell people where to find me, you are amazing at what you do. I love your podcast. I love the way that you get down to help people, and you are helping people to deal with stress and to think differently about themselves. So you deserve a massive round of applause because the work you do is absolutely fantastic. Keep going, and I'm happy to come back anytime and recommend to people that we talk to you.
Thank you so much, and I will take you up on that. So be prepared for the next episode.
Thank you. For people finding me, just go to speakonstage.com. All my programs, all my connections, my podcast, everything can be found through there. And if you want to get me on as a podcast guest, or you just want to connect with me for business, or you want to connect with me, my social media is all there as well. And I'd love to find out how I can help you.
Awesome. Thanks again, Dave, and looking forward to our next episode with you.
Can't wait. Thank you so much.
And thank you all the listeners that have been with us, and keep close, because in these podcasts you're going to find out more and more ways and techniques to better your life and keep that courage and confidence you need to really enjoy your life. Take care. Bye-bye.